as I said, the title of the presentation is Enhancing CRM Value Through Marketing Automation. So the idea here is that, most of you are, at least familiar with CRM technology and understand Salesforce.com and what it can do for you and how it's important to have that great database of all of your information. So what we're going to talk about today is how you can leverage that database to really gauge and get the most out of it from a marketing perspective and be able to improve the way that you are able to communicate with your customers and prospects. So when we think about automation, a lot of times we think about it more in the traditional manufacturing sense. I found kind of this old school definition from the Encyclopedia Britannica website saying, there are advantages to automation, things like increased productivity, efficient use of materials, better product quality, So we think about it in terms of, robots building cars like we see in the picture here. So what we're going to talk about today, though, is how you can get some similar types of benefits, although not quite as specific in terms of materials or things like that, how you can get similar productivity and efficiency benefits from marketing automation that a factory can get through factory automation. And I love this quote, too, from Paul Dickinson from LifeHack. It says, automation is having technology do things for you so that you don't have to. And so all of us are super busy with our different responsibilities at our companies, especially if we're in marketing at a small and medium-sized business. We usually wear a lot of hats. We have to look at things like the website. We're working on events. We're working on, other types of web marketing and trying to make sure that everything is going. And a lot of times, doing that ongoing email communication and monitoring of people's activity, it sort of gets lost in the shuffle. So hopefully, as we go through this presentation today, that will help you kind of see how this type of technology can help you get more efficient. So just a little understanding what marketing automation is, what it allows you to do is accelerate and better manage the flow of data through the demand funnel. A lot of you have seen similar pictures like this before. This is one of many. I selected one here of many that are available like this. But at the end of the day, what you're looking at here is the traditional funnel, right? Where at the top we have people that are hand raisers that say, we're interested in your product. At the very bottom, you have closed deals. Well, as we know, people are falling out of this funnel at all different stages, right? So we have this marketing qualified lead, this idea of a sales accepted lead. We have opportunities. We have the stages in the opportunity. People fall out everywhere along the way. Most of the time what happens is people fall out of that funnel is that they are lost, and then we don't reach out with them or communicate with them anymore. If we do, it's very ad hoc and not measured, and it's not done in a way that is consistent so that we can make sure that we don't, that as those people are falling out, we can push the ones back in that might qualify later. They fall out for various reasons, as we know, right? So there's a lot of those reasons that are timeliness issues, that are issues with internal politics, all those kinds of things, that if you re-engage with that person later on down the road, there's a very good chance you can get them put back into the funnel. Just to kind of an idea of how that system flow would work. So first we'll see where you have all of the marketing sources that are funneling leads into the marketing automation system. So if you think about website forums, external media, like syndication or things like that, live events that you do, any way that you're collecting leads, trade shows, seminars, webinars, all those kinds of things, the way that this works is you funnel all that into the marketing automation system, and then that in turn syncs with your CRM. So what that means is that you have this rich history of what they've done from a marketing perspective and what they've done from a sales perspective funneling into one database. And I can then use that for the purposes of marketing and help them and help accelerate these people through the funnels we were talking about before. Marketing automation has several components. And a lot of companies will adopt one or more of these at a time depending on the type of depending on what their current needs are, what the highest priorities are. So we're going to go through each one of these in turn and talk about them in a little bit more detail. Lead scoring is a big part of that, and we're going to talk about how you can use lead scoring to help your sales team prioritize leads. Email marketing is obviously very important. That's the way the major communication mechanism through marketing automation, and we know the reason for that is because email is still the way that most people get their information, especially in a B2B type of environment. Lead nurturing is a cousin to email marketing. It's the mechanism for delivering those emails in the way and at the time that people want them. CRM integration is critical for marketing automation success. We'll talk a little bit about that. Obviously, we're going to be biased toward integration with Salesforce because that's the technology that we use. But the good news is that all of the principal marketing automation vendors integrate with Salesforce.com and do it quite well. Online activity tracking is really important. So all of the marketing automation tools that I'm going to present today, that I'm going to talk about, let you take a snippet of code and put that on your web pages. And that'll let you track people's activity once they're a known user. So someone comes to your website, fills out a form, and then now you start tracking their activity. And so then you can see not only who they are, but what they're doing. And that's really important, what they're viewing. And you can do a lot with that information. The last piece of this is probably the most critical. If we don't analyze all of this great data that we're now getting through a marketing automation strategy, it doesn't really do us a lot of good. And the nice thing is that now you're going to have good data to work on that closed-loop marketing to really be able to measure the success of your marketing activities. First, we'll talk about lead scoring. And the objective of lead scoring is to make sure that we're getting the highest value leads to the sales team, allowing them to focus on the best leads that have the highest propensity to convert to a sale. Now, certainly, lead scoring is an iterative thing, but what I'm showing you here on the screen is something, a place to start, not necessarily with these numbers, but just kind of the framework that you could use. So with these marketing automation technologies, you can score web page views, email activity, registration for live events and webinars and white papers and other types of places where you're collecting people's information. And then what you can do is then give scores to those leads. Sorry, I lost my screen there for a minute. There we go. Then you can give scores to those leads and then put them into grades. And so then that grade then you can push over to the CRM, and it helps your salespeople prioritize. Again, don't think about the numbers here. Think about more of the framework that we're using. But now what that does is all of a sudden the salespeople can sort their views by lead grade. They can you can only send over A leads. There's a lot of different things that you can do. And then with the B and the C leads, what you can do is things like do a nurture campaign, follow up, and try to get them up to that A status. So lead scoring is a really great way to prioritize with your sales team. On the email marketing side, certainly most of us are probably engaging in some kind of email marketing. So, and there's a lot of different ways that you can do that through a lot of different types of tools. If you take the next step and move to a marketing automation tool above, say like a Constant Contact or a MailChimp, and move to a marketing automation system like HubSpot or Pardot or Marketo or Eloqua, you get some additional features that let you really make the content of your email stand out and let you also deliver those in a way that are going to give them a higher response rate. Personalization is really cool. So you can see in this example that, high first name, right? So we're pulling in that person's first name from the CRM system. We're able to personalize the email. You can do dynamic signatures. So you can send emails on behalf of your sales team and say, hi, John, I'm your sales rep. I would love to talk to you sometime about our technology and what it can do to help you in your business. Signed, Joe, here's my information. Like, you can see how that's way more powerful than just sending a general HTML newsletter. Now, certainly HTML newsletters have their place in providing general information. But if we're talking about trying to drive people to engage with us, these personalized emails really can be effective. Also, some systems allow for dynamic email content where you can say things, you can change this paragraph, for example, that is, that based on the segment that you've chosen. for the automation. So, for example, you could say, if industry is this, put this paragraph in. If industry is that, put a different set of information. Lead nurturing is sort of the science of taking those emails and delivering them to the right people at the right time. So, as we talked about before, as those leads are falling out of the funnel, you want to communicate with them at those different stages and help them to re-engage with you. And you can also create this ongoing dialogue. Upsell and cross-sell is a really great way to use lead nurturing in terms of pushing additional products or upgrades to existing customers. And of course, your prospects, sometimes they're going to kick the tires and come to your website, maybe fill out a form, but not really engage with you right away. They're just trying to figure things out. Then down the road, they may be ready, or they may pass this information along to their boss or whatever to be able to get into more of a sales-ready state. So lead nurturing helps keep your brand top of mind to them as you're doing that. There's different types of lead nurturing. There's a pre-sales, as I talked about, helping those tire kickers move up the chain, so to speak. You can reach out to people where opportunities have been stalled, where opportunities have been lost because of lost budget or something like that. And as I mentioned, upsell and cross-sell. There's a lot of great ways to add different types of lead nurturing that you can do. This is certainly not an exhaustive list. And there's going to be some things that are specific to your business where you can sit down and kind of map out a whole strategy. So this is a bit small, so I apologize, but this kind of gives you an example of what a nurture campaign might look like. And what's cool about it is that these technologies that I'm talking about, the Pardot and Eloqua, Marketo, and those technologies, you can build it out in a similar type of view. They don't always use kind of a Visio type of view, but some of them might use having a little bit different way to do it, but it's essentially building out these kind of decision tree types of things. So, for example, initially we send out a direct mail with the landing page. If someone fills out the form at the landing page, then we send them another targeted email. If they fill out the next form, they're ready to send to sales and engage. And then there's no steps all along the way. You're continuing to send those follow-up emails, waiting for those. In this case, what we're waiting for is 2 touches. Or 2 responses. So someone fills out a form, 2 different forms, that's when we're saying they're ready to work with sales. And that can work in conjunction with your lead scoring as well, because if they're doing these touches all along the way, it should be incrementing their scoring. CRM integration, as I mentioned, is critical, and it's really important for your marketing automation tool to sync with your Salesforce database, because then what you're doing is you're leveraging that great data that you've got in Salesforce. If you think about that data that you have in your Salesforce database, it's really good. It's like we have all this activity about people engaging with us. We have the campaign history. We have their current opportunity stage or lead status. We've got all this great data. Well, that we want to use that in our marketing and make sure we're communicating with them the right information at the right time. So the good news about that is, I mentioned, and this is not an exhaustive list. I've got Marketo, ExactTarget, Pardot, and Eloqua listed here. But all of these systems sync at very frequent intervals with Salesforce, sometimes up to in as little as every 15 minutes. So the great thing about that is that you get that basically in real time. You're getting the information back from the CRM. And you sync with all the different Salesforce objects, and you can even do some things whether it's in Salesforce or in the marketing automation tool, to pull data over from custom objects and things like that to really give a rich data set for your marketing automation system. All of these tools sync bidirectionally with Salesforce to keep that information up to date. And just a note about that, a little technical note. Most of them use email address as a unique identifier. In fact, they all do. And what's important to realize is that even if that person exists more than once in Salesforce, they'll only exist once based on their email address in the marketing automation tool. And at the end of the day, your marketing automation tool, if you're funneling your leads through it, as I showed in the diagram before, all of a sudden it turns into this de facto dedupe tool for your CRM. So basically, because what will happen is, let's say I've got a list of leads from a trade show. I upload those into my marketing automation tool, And what the marketing automation tool does, it says, look, if this email address already exists, I'm just going to update their campaign history with this new trade show. If it doesn't exist already, I'm going to create a new lead and then push that lead over into Salesforce. So now I've got a great way to really enrich my data set and improve my data quality in Salesforce by doing some of that de facto deduplication. And then the other side of that is that all of these tools have a way for you to be in Salesforce and see that activity that's going on. So you can see their email clicks, their website visits, their form fill, their forms that they completed, and all of a sudden I've got this great way to communicate with my salespeople and tell them what's going on with this person from a marketing perspective. The other piece of that is that you're able to, you can even do alerts for your salespeople when a high-value contact, reaches a certain point or engages in a certain way. So online activity tracking is a really important part of marketing automation, and it's kind of an unsung hero to a certain extent. Because what it does is it basically drops a cookie on someone when they fill out a form. And then once that happens, then you can start tracking things like their email interactions, their third-party link clicks, to and from your website. You can do, their form submissions, their Salesforce campaigns. And if you can see on the right, again, it's a little bit small, but this is a snapshot of someone's history from our actual database, our actual marketing automation tool that we use here at Kyazma. So you're seeing I've got this, this email interaction history. I've got that they registered for a couple of webinars. It gives them kind of their timeline. And this information is super valuable from a marketing perspective because now I can start to see really what people are doing in my system, and then I can trigger communications off of that, and then it all ties together, right? It ties to lead scoring, it ties to my lead nurture programs. So this activity tracking is really valuable. So all of this is kind of culminates in the way that we do our marketing analysis. So as we've got our marketing system, we've got our sales system, and we tie them together via analysis, and there's a lot of different ways you can do that. Certainly, some of the out-of-the-box reporting in Salesforce and in the marketing automation tool will help you with this. But at the end of the day, if I've got that interaction history and I can see what people are doing, I can also see whether or not it's leading to closed business, and I can start to measure the success of my marketing activities. So instead of just scattershotting out a batch and blast email to 10,000 people, all of a sudden I can be very targeted in my approach, and then I can see if that's actually working and adjust accordingly. So that's really where the rubber meets the road when it comes to marketing automation, is doing that analysis. So there are obviously a lot of benefits to marketing automation. The first one, certainly improving sales efficiency and productivity. We talked about that in terms of the lead scoring and lead prioritization and delivering that information about interaction history to the salespeople, building relationships through effective communication. So instead of saying, hey, everybody, we're just going to give you a once-a-month newsletter about all the information about our company, you're going to be delivering information to them in a more timely way, in a more targeted way. You're able to leverage that great CRM data. One of the things I didn't really mention is the ability to create dynamic targeted lists. So you can say, like, for example, I'm going to create my email list for the financial services industry. So anytime a new lead comes in, it indicates their service, their industry is financial services, they'll automatically drop into this list, and I can send them down a nurture path, I can send them to the right salesperson, I can give them a score, I can do all those things. So, and so we have this give and take between the CRM and the marketing automation tool that's really going to improve the way that you're able to segment and communicate with customers. And then, of course, effectiveness. That's really what it comes down to at the end of the day. What we're trying to do is be more effective in our marketing. And, marketing automation is one of the things that's bringing us marketing into the world of analysis as opposed to in the world of just being a cost center. So in the past, if you think about the Mad Men, example, or all the way up until the end of the 20th century, you basically are saying, the VP of marketing or the CMO is going to the CFO and saying, I need some money. The CFO looks at that as a cost center, right? They're delivering all of this money to the marketing team, and the marketing team is doing all they can. So, they're doing brand measurements and things like that, impressions. But then what they're not doing is showing how that money is actually driving revenue for the business. And marketing automation allows you to do that by linking your CRM with your marketing automation tool. And so then instead, you can say, Mr. CFO, thanks for the money that you gave me last year. This is what I did with it. And this is the return you got on that investment. And so next year, you can make that argument to get more money if you're being more effective in your marketing. So what that means is that now I'm able to say, now I've become, instead of a cost center, I've become an investment for the company. We're investing in our marketing because we know it's going to drive revenue, and that it's not just something where it's going to give us a TV ad. And it's really important for companies, large and small, to start making those kind of distinctions. One of these, few more benefits, more from a quantitative perspective, pulled these from Pardot. Companies using marketing automation are really seeing solid ROI. They're producing more sales-ready leads, and they're driving more revenue. So it lets the marketing department again show their value and show what they're doing. So this is I really like these statistics because it shows the quantitative value of these types of tools. So as I mentioned at the beginning of the call, one of the challenges we have as marketers is trying to get the most out of the resources that we have. In some cases, we are the resource. We are it, right? We're the marketing department for a company and a small business. And so how do I get the most out of that, right? And how do I do that without having to hire a bunch of people to, take spreadsheets and upload them to the email tool and go back and forth? I mean, that can take a lot of man hours. And what I can do is implement marketing automation and then have that tool available so when I do hire someone, I can assign them more value-added activities, helping build out those segments, helping build out those nurture campaigns, helping build out the lead scoring and how that works. And then all of a sudden, I've got, instead of hiring someone to pass spreadsheets from one system to another, I'm making it possible for them to be able to really help add more value to the company. So an example of let's take a specific campaign. So without marketing automation, the segmentation that I'm going to do is all through Excel. So I'm just going to take Excel and I'm going to manipulate it based on industry and company size and those kinds of things. But with a marketing automation tool, that can happen automatically. Like I said before, you can build out these dynamic lists. When somebody meets a certain set of criteria, they can add it to that list. So all of a sudden, I've got my segments built automatically and dynamically. Email delivery, as we know, it can be a challenge to pull a list from your CRM system, upload that list, and deliver that for each email. But if you can use marketing automation, all of a sudden you're building all of that out via workflow tool. So now you're able to now I'm able to actually go in and build out these steps of this campaign and then just let it run and then spend my time doing analysis and optimizing as opposed to, as I said, passing spreadsheets back and forth. Lead scoring, we can use Salesforce to do some automation. There are those of you that are on Enterprise Edition know you can use workflows and those kinds of things to build out some scoring in Salesforce. But it's complicated to manage, and it takes a lot of effort to keep that up to date. But if you use a marketing automation tool, you can set those attributes again, and then instead of constantly keeping those up to date, you can set those attributes and then let that continue to run. And instead of having to, again, spend your time keeping the rules up to date, you can optimize and see if the score is actually predictive of someone purchasing, and then adjust accordingly. Lead management is another piece where you can use our marketing automation to automate the passing of leads back and forth between sales and marketing. You can do things like, if a lead goes untouched for 48 hours, goes into a nurture campaign. Or a salesperson can mark a lead as nurture, automatically goes into a nurture campaign. If an opportunity drops out of the funnel with a specific closed loss reason, again, can put them into the nurture campaign. So all of a sudden, I'm doing a better job of saying these leads belong to marketing, these leads belong to sales, and making sure that either way, people aren't falling through the cracks. So just a few suggestions from our experience in working with clients. There are some pitfalls in working with marketing automation. It is an investment. It is a significantly higher investment than using an email marketing point product. So there's just some suggestions that we have to help you be able to get the most out of those. So out of that investment. So the temptation is to look at it as a shiny new toy. There's a lot of solutions out there. It's important to select the solution that's the best fit for you. And we're going to talk a little bit about the different solutions here in a minute. But not to look at it as just the shiny new toy, but to really, really look at all the different options to find out what would be the best fit for you. Number two is kind of related to that, but once you do make that purchase, this quote, we just need to buy something and our campaigns will run themselves. So that's not going to happen. It does take effort. It does take work. And no system, just like with Salesforce, and a lot of you may have seen this in your experience, no system will fix a bad process. It's important to build out a process and build out a strategy for using marketing automation. And that leads us to the third item, which is destination nowhere. It's kind of saying, we don't have, what is our objective, what are our metrics that are going to demonstrate the successful marketing automation strategy. So again, just some suggestions from us on what you can do. What I'd like to do now is talk a little bit about the different vendors that are out there. There we go. I'm going to kind of categorize them into different categories. A lot of you might be using some of these, and hopefully this will give you an idea of kind of what's out there in the marketplace. First of all, I just want to talk about email point solutions that don't have marketing automation capabilities, but do have value, especially when you're first starting out. Certainly they're very intuitive, easy to use, and they're inexpensive, right? That's the strength of those. The downsides is that they're a very manual solution. So that sort of pulling the list and the batch and blast function is going to be the main way you're going to use this. There's no integrated function for landing pages or website tracking. So all of that functionality I talked about is not available in your email point solutions. And not all of these solutions even provide a native Salesforce.com integration. Some do it through a third party, but it's still fairly limited. So examples of these vendors are like MailChimp, Preferred Response. We have clients using iContact or Constant Contact. So a lot of you have heard of those and may be using those solutions. Again, for what they are, they do a pretty good job, right? But they don't provide all the functionality that a marketing automation solution would. So kind of in a different category is the large-scale email vendors. And what these guys do is do a great job of B2C types of marketing with some marketing automation available. So these are really scalable. So, if you think about a company like Best Buy or Target or REI or someone like that, they're going to use these solutions to send out millions and millions of emails a month. And their deliverability is great. They have great algorithms for making sure that you're building out emails that are going to be have a high rate of deliverability to your customers and prospects. The downside of these are that the automation capabilities are a bit limited. So it is a bit of a challenge to be able to do automated campaigns. It's there and it's available, but for example, their scoring might be a little bit limited, or their nurture campaign. But because they're more based on a B2C type of transactional business. Now, if you're a B2C, and these are the types of solutions that I would recommend you look at, because these work really well for a transactional-based model. So again, I said they're not as good about supporting account-based selling, so they don't work quite as well on the B2B side. And their Salesforce.com integration is a bit limited at this point because of that, because of their history as being more of a B2C focus. Before I didn't talk about the pricing, but obviously those other solutions are very reasonably priced. These vendors price by the number of sends, and they have a medium price point. You can get into these for a higher investment, but not too high of an investment, depending on how many sends you're going to do. So there are a couple of vendors, HubSpot and Genius are the ones I'm thinking of, that do online marketing that include marketing automation in that suite. So their strengths are they have really good interfaces, really easy to use, especially HubSpot, and they have a lot of features. So HubSpot does things like, it can be your web CMS, it does content optimization on your website, it has some SEO features, it has some things that a traditional marketing automation tool doesn't have. But their CRM integration is a bit limited because that's not really their bread and butter, and then they don't have the depth and automation in creating those complicated decision trees that I showed earlier. The good news is that they're reasonably priced, and as opposed to email sends, their pricing is based on your database size. SMB marketing automation tools are going to be what we recommend to a lot of our B2B clients. They deliver a lot of value for the price, and their UIs are really great, really simple, and they have great integration with Salesforce.com. They do lack some flexibility and depth in some of their automation because they're more they're more small business focused. But they are reasonable price point, and again, they're based on database size. Pardot is an interesting one. I'll talk a little bit about that, just that being a Salesforce product. A lot of you are probably wondering, what's Salesforce going to do with this? Well, it's a part of their Sales Cloud, and it's a good product right now that does a really good job of integrating with Salesforce. Down the road, Salesforce's plan is to make that a native application within Salesforce. So it will share a database with Salesforce and really make it convenient to be able to use Pardot within the Salesforce interface. It's going to be a very good strength that they're going to have down the road. eTrig and Acton are also good tools that our clients are using that are very intuitive and simple, but also provide a rich set of all those features, landing pages, website tracking, lead scoring, and alert lead nurture campaigns. Enterprise marketing automation solutions are going to be for your larger companies that really want to make an investment in it. They have a ton of flexibility, and you can do just about anything from an automation perspective, including not just nurture campaigns and scoring and things like that. You can also do things like data management, cleaning your data, updating fields, doing a lot of those kinds of things. They're complex, and their interfaces are not as easy to use. You may even need a full-time automation specialist to manage these systems, so that's kind of the drawback, especially for a smaller company. Their prices are very high, so you're paying a price for all of that flexibility and functionality. The examples there are Eloqua, which is now owned by Oracle, Marketo, and then also Neolane is kind of a newer player. They had a smaller customer base, but now they've been purchased by Adobe, they become a direct competitor to these other two solutions. So to summarize, marketing automation provides tangible benefits. That's probably the most important takeaway. It's not just an expense. The components of marketing automation can help you streamline your process. So you think about the definition of automation that we saw before. That can really help you get more out of the investment that you're making. There are several vendor types that basically run the gamut from basic email marketing to complex marketing automation. And so you need to just look at all the different options and pick the one that's right for you. So I noticed now that that's kind of the end of the presentation. So what I'd like to do now is address some of the questions that are coming through on the GoToMeeting, and I appreciate those that have asked questions. So what marketing automation system to use and why? Great question. So we are currently using HubSpot, and it has been a great solution for us because we really needed a web CMS along with marketing automation. And because we didn't have the resources to proactively manage our website, we needed that help. and we didn't want to invest in SEO and some of these other things separately, and so we're using HubSpot as kind of an all-in-one. What it's come down to, though, is that we've run into some of the limits that HubSpot has from a marketing automation and from a Salesforce integration perspective, and so we're actually moving to Pardot over the next couple of months. And again, it is not because HubSpot is a poor solution. It's a great solution. We have several clients that are using it. We're going to continue to work with clients that are using it. It's more just our internal needs are going to be met better by the depth of marketing automation. Now we have more resources too that we can throw at the website, so we're going to go back to a standard WordPress CMS. So again, we're getting that depth of features, and we're moving to Pardot over the next couple of months. So someone's asking marketing automation best practices for SMB. So I think one of the things to do as an SMB is to really map out your content strategy, because all of this that I've talked about today, and especially when it comes to lead nurturing, you can't deliver that without good content. And so you're going to have to invest some time and effort in building content. Now, content isn't always expensive. So at Kyazma, one of our main content, points of content that we've used is our weekly webinars and the recordings of those webinars. So a lot of you may know that we do Friday webinars, training webinars every week about Salesforce. We do a new user training, and we do an Ask the Admin session. And so because of that, it's really, we've got all this great content that we've recorded, and so we're able to use that in our marketing automation. We've also invested in a white paper. We're going to invest in a couple more of those, some case studies and other things like that. So that's one best practice, is make an investment in some good content. The other thing is I would say, think of your website, especially if you're B2B, think of your website as a lead generation tool and as a way to drive people to give you their information. I know that sounds kind of callous to say that, but it actually is really important for B2B companies to realize how powerful the website could be in driving people to fill out a form and give you their information. Because at the end of the day, I mean, that's what you're in business to do, and you're providing value for that, right? You're not just saying, hey, give us your information, and maybe we'll call you, maybe we won't. You're giving them all that content that I talked about. You're letting them talk directly to a salesperson or whatever the call to action is. And the last thing I would say is just build out a strategy. Have a great, because and one big important part of that is having good dialogue between marketing and sales. Having that conversation of when you're talking about lead scoring, sending out nurture emails, sending out those alerts about people's online activity. It's important to talk with sales and work out that strategy together. So those are some additional high-level strategy things I would recommend. One question, how long does it take to implement and implement a marketing automation tool? The good news is a lot of these are very, very quick. And I know that Pardot, they do theirs within a 60-day window, but that's more of, during that 60-day window, they can deliver, help you deliver landing pages, help you deliver some nurture campaigns, lead scoring, those kinds of things. So I would give it a couple of months like that just to make sure, and again, a lot of it is doing the homework on the other side, the marketing and sales alignment, the content building, those kinds of things that are really going to help you be successful. So again, the technical aspects of implementing these tools can be done fairly quickly in a couple of weeks. You have to do some email authentication and security things. You have to set up the integration with Salesforce. You have to do those kinds of things. But the technical part of it is pretty simple. It's building out that strategy and making sure that you have all your ducks in a row. What is our nurture campaign going to be? What are our emails going to say? What is the content that we're going to drive people to? That takes some time. But I would give it a couple of months to really implement it effectively.